So welcome everyone to Create a World, a place where we can have authentic conversation about what's rising, being in the community of awesome people, sharing how we're moving through the world. I'm Lori Candon, and today I'm here with Sharonda Crome. We met, I think, over like 10 years ago, around 10 years ago, through a wonderful supportive community called Women Generating. And that community has changed my life. And paths kind of separated, took their own direction, and just very recently, I saw Sharonda again, like on Facebook of all places. And I was like, oh my God, I have to reconnect. And with that being said, we did, and she's here. So welcome. And I would love, instead of me putting words into, your mouth or what have you, I would love for you to share whatever you would like to share about who you are, what you're doing, and let the world know your awesomeness.
Thank you, Lori. Wow, who I am and what I'm doing. So, my name is Sharonda Crome, and I am a polarity therapy coach and practitioner now. After all of those 10 years of study, my offering has turned into a body of work that supports people in finding rest at their center, and that combines body/energy work and coaching. Stay reminded of what's really true, what our soul's really calling for, and how to set up structures in the world to support that, inner and outer. I am also empowered self-defense instructor, where I help teach folks how to create boundaries for themselves and employ them with physical techniques if they need to. And I feel like both of those modalities fit really well for me, just through my own history and how I learned how to fight for myself, and how that and finding rest go together for me. And my intention is to teach that forward. So that's what I do. Who I am is a little more complicated. And not. I'm a seeker. I am someone who loves to find evidence to support the truth that I know. And that shows up for me through children and grandchildren and people that I meet, and books that I read and music that I listen to, and jewelry that I make. So I hope that answers your question.
100%.
Yeah. Yeah.
It strikes me like part of me is like surprised, and part of me isn't surprised that after so many years, it was a seamless reconnection. And a lot of what you shared, that's been a path for me also. So there's that threading that through that initial like meeting and experiencing together, there's a depth that has been able to like just tap right back into it.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, that is a place to rest, a place to rest in the vibrancy of who we are, and being someone that tends to do things alone, or think I can handle the world by myself. It's tiring.
Mm-hmm.
And like whenever we've had conversation up until now, I'm like I'm always jazzed after we speak. So thank you for being a catalyst and a resource for that that inner strength of just being with and connected with more than that stuff out there.
Yeah. The structures that we live in today support individualism and aloneness, and kind of like fake networking kind of, situation where, yeah, we're together, but you're alone. And in truth, we are in our own beingness, and we actually, as human beings, depend on each other for our survival. Our nature is patterned after the nature of life. So when we look at the nature of life, I don't think there's many things that like grow in silos. Like there's something, things grow together. Most things, I believe. And so I believe that to be the same for humans. We have the nature of life inside of us. We are patterned after that nature. So it makes sense to me that we are interdependent and interconnected. And so, when the conversations are about life and being in life and being with life and, having life, inform how I move in the world, of course I would be jazzed because it resonates to what's true inside of me, right? And so I think that out of, because I too was like, oh, I'm doing this all by myself. I was trained that way, right? To be a strong Black woman, I was trained that way, right? To not need anybody. Oh, I don't need this, and I don't need that, and I don't need any help. And whew, as a wife and a mother and someone who was working, to try to do all that alone, I learned very quickly. There was something that is said about, it takes a village to raise a child. That was my first like real community, was allowing people to help me raise these kids. And I am so grateful. And I acknowledge and remember often that my children are not who they are because of me alone, because of me and my husband alone. There were many hands. And so that was my first like allowing community to that consciously, right? Consciously allowing support in terms of like being in this world and doing the things that we do.
Well, that's one of the things that I love about the impact safety and the empowered self-defense. It it creates a structure, right? That women, men, I experienced the impact psyched in myself. And it was such a pivotal time for me to find that own inner resource as I was like collectively supported into movement on behalf of myself. And I'm like, what? Nobody ever told me that, that is so the way that the deconstructing of what's happening, the reconstruction not has to, but I like long for it to include that way of being, because I tell you, being in a moment of total like freeze, like, oh my God. And then all these women, like, you can do it, like, you choose when you want to move, and, all of that, and take action. And I was like, okay, and I could do it. And wow, it's in me now. So it's like peeling off another layer of what societal, historical constructs have really placed upon what it means to be in this world. And wow, it's like we all need to like be able to have access to that.
Yes. And the beautiful thing for those of us who are people averse or humans averse, it's really not about the outer being at all. It's really about connecting to what's true about you and me, and that is you have the pattern of life in you, and I have the pattern in life with me, and can I connect to that? And we can work out personality stuff later if we want to. But as we come together, am I a stand with and for my life? And can I be a stand with and for your life? Mattering in a way that supports because it needs to matter in order for our community to be healthy and whole. Right?
Yeah. And allow that, to bring on that sustainable change.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that in our conversation, you had like, I saw you doing a talk, inhale, exhale in collaboration with Ohio Voice. And I'm like, what is Ohio Voice? And can you share a little bit about that? Because it kind of goes along with what we're talking about here.
Yeah, so Ohio Voice is an organization that supports organizers, activists, and those who are in the change movement sector. They support with different learnings, how to organize, how to get their movements, like they support with learning tech. So they have lots of teachings and opportunities to learn things. And Charlie, who is one of the managers over there, and forgive me if I'm not getting your title right, Charlie, connected with me around their inhale exhale, where they wanted to provide a space for healers and organizers and activists to rest. And so I, along with my cohort Arnesia, we stand in the gap, and we do collective power practices, and we talk a lot about what it means to be in that sector and not sacrifice yourself, and how to still advocate for ourselves in that movement work, and how to give ourselves the gift that we want to give the world.
Yeah, it's like like the what they say on the airplane, right? You put the mask on yourself before you put it on anyone else? And how do we resource ourselves as a community, as a global community, to tap into the potentiality and the power of resting within, so our vibrancy, so our stand, so our way of moving upon the earth has that galvanizing impact, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the people that I want to listen to, right?
Mm-hmm.
The people that are connected with the life, that are in the fullness of their being, not working from that depleted, like, place. It's so like inspirational.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Learning how to rest from an energetic perspective rocked me to the core. I never knew that that was accessible for me, as someone who, did all the things and took care of everybody, oldest child, took care of everybody, sacrificed myself in many, 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 many ways, recovering. I'm recovering. And to have access to ways of connecting with myself on a deeper level, with people remembering to do the same. First of all, it was such a relief, right? I didn't have to take care of anybody. Whew, right? I actually, after I got over the initial guilt of it, what a relief to have practices that support that in my life. And when the light gets shined on all the cobwebs that still need to be dusted out, what a relief to know that I have a community of people that I practice with, that I can just rest. I don't necessarily in a moment have to rehash things, but I get to look at something other than my patterns or my shapings or my trauma responses or my survival strategies, any of that. There's something I can also that brings resource. So yeah, I'm super appreciative of knowing that and knowing people who practice. It's a huge deal. It's a huge deal for me.
Yeah, this brings up my own patterning of, for the majority of my life, up until like about 10 years, 20 years ago, working in that either or, that duality of like, it's either good or bad or right or wrong or, what have you. And creating the practices, having the community, being in the both and. So how can you be with, how can I be, how can we all be with our own conditioned tendencies and our patterning, and connect underneath all of that to the vibrancy of life? That, wow, like, let our, in spite of ourselves, with all our history, there is a shining, bright awesomeness in each and every one of us. And to be in the presence of people like connected to that, that's powerful. That's powerful. For me, that's how the transformation, the sustainable change, or even the like being with like the mental thought, like it can change, right? Because we're in that hustle and bustle. We've talked about this a lot outside of here, of just like going around and around doing the same thing. And it's like, no, it doesn't have to be that way. There is something else.
And, you know, Lori, the change is sustainable because it's slow.
Yeah.
Right? We have been consciously choosing for 10 years.
Yeah.
Maybe more, but you know, like
yeah.
through women generating in polarity, it really like fine-tuned.
Yes.
For us, I believe. I would say for me for sure.
Yeah.
And you know, what makes it sustainable is the practices, you know, the remembering, the moving towards impartiality more, the easing of self-punishment when we forget, because guess what? We will forget. We're designed to, right? So I'm learning to lessen the like, oh, I should know this by now. Should I? You know, who said structures of hierarchy and, you know, historical forces say that's their voice. But the voice of, you know, my knowing is these are the experiences. These are the lessons. Glean from what you can and take it into the next time, the next evolution.
Yeah. Well, you know, and that brings me up to the resiliency of nature, right? The life in and of itself. Like you said earlier about that patterning is within each and every one of us. And how many times have you like walked down the street or seen like this beautiful flower out of a crack in concrete or something like that? It's like there is that way of how do I say it? It's like being in it, like that resiliency and then resiliency, recovering. So it is that ebb and flow, that fluidity of being with the dynamic evolutionary process of life, right? Because we're constantly changing. Everything is coming in, everything is going out. There's a death, there's a birth at every moment. And that is within us. That is within our mental thoughts. That is within our shaping of our bodies and things like that. And just the essence of who we are. So being in that with consciousness and a stand and a longing and our boundaries, you know, for our own safety. Wow. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't know that as a kid. Like I think like little kid, I may have like connected to that because I was more carefree and just like, woohoo, let me be out in the world, like investigating and being in nature and looking at all the bugs and all of that. And as life happened, right, that kind of dimmed. And like you have said so many times, that remembering, it is deep within us and we can always return to that. And it's much, much, much easier when we have a community to rest with.
For sure.
Yeah.
So we have some questions in the chat.
Yeah, I saw that.
How do you find yourself connecting the healer rhythm to the activist movement? For me, this being in this structure here, for me, I find I don't want to leave myself. So if I'm serving as a healer, as an activist, or as an organizer, anything in the serving arts, right? I don't want to leave myself, right? And so first of all, I had the lovely capacity of being an inner dissociator. And by that, I mean, I can go deep within myself, really, really far in, really small, really for long periods of time, and not be connected at all in a way. How I've turned that strategy into a superpower is through the Polarity community, which I'll talk more about in a second. Now I can sit for a long period of time connected with people as they talk about their hard stuff, or as they they share their hard things with me, right? And I move to a more impartial mind, so I don't have an agenda. I believe in everybody's inherent inner wisdom, right? We all were born with it. At some point, it got weaned out, beat out, shamed out, however, and we lost our connection to it. So with that being said, I always encourage, someone to make space for their own resource by resting, by setting boundaries, by listening to their inner wisdom and moving on their own behalf in the way that is generative. And that requires some slowing down. Now, am I there all the time? No, because I'm an activist for my own life first. I have to be, because I can't be an activist for anyone else unless I'm active in my own inner liberation. Okay, so that's the first thing. So that's that's the rhythm for me in the healer activist space. I'm always encouraged, and if you're not familiar with Tricia Hersey, Rest Manifesto, I advise take a look and follow them on Nap Ministry on Facebook or Instagram. But even before that, even before I found Tricia Hersey, that's again me seeking and gathering things that I know are true for me, are true about life. Life moves in cycles. Rest is a part of that cycle. So when we are, when we're doing our activism work and our organizational work and our healing work and anything in the caring arts, healing arts, listen, we have to be full. We have to be at a place of impartiality as much as possible, or practice moving towards impartiality, so we're not whipped by the winds of change constantly. And we're consciously choosing, so something is calling me to address this issue. So I'm going out and I'm working and I'm addressing the issue. White supremacy, police reform, healing, healthcare, whatever our focus is that moves us in a direction that includes all and resonates to the truth about how life is, really, do it. I'm not saying don't do it. I'm saying bring yourself with you. Bring yourself with you. Find ways that you are being resourced, rested, well cared for while you're doing this work. There is a such thing. Did I say that right? There is such a thing as resting while working.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then 45 Road Biker asks, what are some of the ways people are working together in the Polarity group? What are skill sets you are working with to assist others? Let me first say that Polarity is for ourselves, okay? And if you want to know more about how the Polarity offerings that are coming up, please reach out to Lori or myself and we can connect you. In the polarity rooms, we work in diverse spaces for a richer experience that allows rest and discomfort to happen together, right? The skill set that we work on, we build collective power. Collective power allows us to disrupt historical shaping, white supremacy, historical forces. It disrupts, it makes space to disrupt the lies of individuality, of hierarchy, of things of that nature, into the truth about life, which is we all receive from a source of life that gives to everyone equally. It's non-personal. And we ground and connect into a root system that we don't have to build. So, you know, a lot of times we go out and we think we have to build something. Well, that's not restful, but allowing yourself to connect into something that is already available for resource, that's restful. And so that's one of the practices that we do that I take into my life daily, and that's building collective power, where it's not about the personality of the person, it's about the life system inside, and inviting each of us into our full, whole, healthy, radiant being. Because like, where do they do that at? And knowing that it's a requirement for our community to be whole and healthy. We define health in the polarity world, the life for liberation, which is, you know, the principle of that is Suzanne Roberts of Unifying Solutions. So if you want to Google Suzanne Roberts and Unifying Solutions, you can. It's called Polarity Therapy, the Path of Living Liberation. And so that's where we put our focus on. And we do learn some techniques for body work to support the principle idea of resting at the center of our being. Did I do that okay?
You're rocking it. And I would like to go back just a moment and reiterate Trish's information. So it's Rest Manifesto that you shared. And what is the contact via Facebook?
Oh, it's NAP, N-A-P Ministry.
Okay, cool.
And the same for Instagram.
Yeah.
NAP, N-A-P.
Oops. Yeah, it's my computer. You know, polarity. Wow. I think you explained it. Well, I don't think you did explain it like perfectly. And I had the opportunity, or I am in the middle of that experience with the awesome team that's leading that and facilitating that. And you know, what strikes me as a huge difference in how we operate in the world is normally it's that surface, like what's your name, what do you do, how much you make, where do you live, like bah, 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 all that stuff that are the descriptors of the personality. And I really like for years, I don't for years being in the connection with life. So underneath all of that, into the oh, I don't know how to put it in the words because it so lives in me. There's a depth that is available when we get out of that surface identifying information. And
Mm-hmm.
for me, that is powerful, and it creates that space to be in a different place in myself.
Mm-hmm.
So having to come into a situation and just lead from my beingness rather than this credential, this credential, this credential, this credential. It's like life has been my credentialing, right?
Mm. Mm. And how colonial of us
Yeah.
to assign worth. And I mean, from way back, Joe Blacksmith, you know, um, I don't know, John Fisher or whatever, you know, their last names were applied to what they did for work or livelihood.
Yeah.
How colonial that we still do that in 21st century. And, la-di-da,
Mhm.
listen, it's not go get it, right? The degrees, the licensure, and all the things. Absolutely, and if I'm connecting to you life to life, my personality is interested in that, right? My ego is interested in those things because it helps me to assign a place for you
Mhm.
in my life, or assign a place for myself in yours.
Mhm.
Right? Should I feel inferior to this person because they have degrees and I don't? Should I feel superior to this person because they've done this, that, and other? And I haven't, or I have, or whatever the thing is, right? That's it. But when we're talking about life to life, it doesn't matter. Now, I can be really deep with somebody and a stand for their life. And like you said, Lori, we didn't know what each other did for money. We knew how to understand life together, though.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that is deep. And I believe that that's why after, the long time in between our connections, it was seamless because we came back right in the river of life.
Yeah. Yep.
Right. And it's only now that I really know like that, because we've made that we consciously, made that a thing between us. Oh, hey, yeah, I want to get to know more about what you do while we're in the conversation of life together.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
See, that I feel like that's the difference between, you know, or that makes the difference on how we get to move and how we remember life together, or how we can have space between us, and it's not personal. It's, life experience is doing its thing.
Yeah.
So too is life.
Yeah.
So underneath the life experience is life.
Yeah.
And I say life with a capital L. That's what I mean. And so
Yeah.
we can call that source, creator, vital life force, energy, God, all the thousands of names, right?
Yeah.
Life experience is one thing. Life with the capital L is another. And
Yeah.
what we have in common is life with the capital L.
Yes.
It always comes back to that for me.
Yep.
I try to remember to always turn as much as possible to the life underneath, the animating principle of form.
Yeah. 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 And me too. Me too. And I love and appreciate people in the community that can hold me accountable to that
Right.
and not be in the, you know, the little L. and
Yeah.
let that run. You know, the little L is always going to happen,
Yeah.
right? If
Yeah.
as long as we're breathing life into our being. And beyond the little L, there will always be the big L, is in my mind. There's always that connection that goes beyond right here on this earth, you know? So it's like, I want to keep practicing, you know, keep being in that fullness. So yeah, I find the willingness for people to be in the more of life like mind-boggling to them, because they think
Mm-hmm.
the more is more money, more cars, more, you know, more things, rather than the more of potentiality, the more potency, the more like that's possible in and with creation, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or
Mm-hmm.
in and with source, or like you said, however you define that for yourself. And we are not alone, right? We all have that. We all have that within.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you said, dust the cobwebs away, dust that layer off, and go down a little bit deeper. And that takes dedication, it takes devotion, it takes not having the agenda, you know, other than like stripping down to the core of our being type of thing. And that's scary sometimes. And,
Mm-hmm.
you know, doing it alone is sometimes even scarier.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And how do we make this more practical? Right? Because it's a philosophy until you do it, right?
Yeah, right.
So what how can we make it practical? Like, how do I make it practical in my life?
Yep.
So if my North Star, or my ideal pattern, or, you know, my main intention is to rest, consider my own needs first more of the time, be compassionate, generous, and whatever other qualities that I associate with the soul, right? So, all right, what do I want more of for myself? Not what do I want to do more of in the world, because we can get to that later. The world's not going anywhere right now. So take a beat and assess, sit with my inner knowing, you know, reconnect to my longing, because those things got weaned out of us. Those things got shamed and beat and, you know, punished out of us. All the ways that we know that we know that we know, even when we were young, right? So connecting to that, figuring out, well, what does feel good to Sharonda? Like, for real, what feels good to my soul? What nourishes me? What feels life generative to me? And figure those things out. And then once I have decided what my yeses are to life, my yeses are to myself, my longing, my knowing, then what do I need to say no to support this being the primary principle in my life?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then, I mean, so it's really, for those who are practiced, it's not perfection, but for those that are practiced, when chaos or crisis comes, I believe Bruce Lee said this, we go to the level of our practice, not to the level of what we know,
Right.
We go to the level of what. So if all I've ever practiced is my strategy of self-sacrifice, when something comes up, guess what I'm gonna do?
Right.
I'm gonna throw myself all over that thing, and I'm gonna find all the ways to fix it, and I'm gonna do it by myself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. But if I can take a beat, just be like, well, let me consider. Now I still may be called to do some fixing, but at least I made the decision consciously.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Because we walk around and we do stuff and we behave in ways that are unconscious and does not serve who we know we are to be inwardly.
Yes.
This is not about being polite in society and all that kind of stuff. Those things come naturally because we want to produce less harm to ourselves, thus inherently will produce less harm to others. So that stuff, we don't have to tell people how to be. We just need to like allow space for people to be in touch with their innate nature and express that freely.
Yeah. Yeah. And, going back, like, what are the practices that we can engage in to help us remember? Right. So for me, like the Tai Chi and the Qigong and the movement, that helps me create that momentum or that fluidity to get out of the stuckness back into the river of life. And we each can find those for ourselves, and that's again, that, like, let's hold ourselves accountable for that. You know what I mean? It's like nobody else can do that for anyone else. It's
right.
Our way of being in relationship to our big L and our little L.
Mm-hmm.
And let's not have the agenda, like you said earlier, like there's no agenda here. Let's just connect with life. And let's support each other to sustain and maintain and hold ourselves accountable for that. And, when we're in contact and engagement with another, you hold me to it, I hold you to it, we hold each other personally to it. And that is like so foreign to so many people because it's an outside external way of being, when really all the fun and the juiciness is inside. Like join your own party, it's like, yeah, I yeah.
And here's what the accountability looks like. It's not like, Lori, get over here and hold your standard. It's not like that. Right? Because there's no agenda and there's no giving and taking in the kind of way that we think about it in the world. So the holding accountable is me being in my ground, resting in my internal self, resting in my still vibrant stillness, which is active and alive and calling for my attention. And so I'm sitting there and and this is how I practice when I coach and do body work on people. I get into my own, I'm not looking at them and moving body parts with the intention of fixing something, right? I'm back, I'm grounded, no agenda. Remembering that Lori has the innate wisdom within Lori's self to find whatever that needs to be found in this moment.
Yeah.
You feel it, right? I feel it.
Yeah. Yep.
And so that is the way we hold accountability. Now, if we're in conversation, then it's like, oh, don't do that. That's stupid. But that's not how, and I'm not saying, but People do that
Yeah.
out there because
Yeah.
people trauma bond for fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or necessity.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So that we're not doing that. We are remembering. I'm in myself, and I'm an invitation in this moment because we're magnets. Our bodies we're magnetized. So if I can bring myself to a place of depth and stillness and vibrancy, people around me will get there. And that's how we build collective power. That's how we hold each other accountable. And if there is a conversation about, some patternings or I just stand in the truth of what I know about Lori. I don't try to change Lori's mind about what they're experiencing in the moment. And I know the truth about Lori, and I know Lori will or won't, because there's no agenda.
Right.
Get there.
Yeah. Yeah. And, I'll share with that because I've been in that. And there is, the longer I'm connected in that way, in that truing, the magnets truing to one another, there is that inner movement that is innate, and it's creating space for the thought patterning, the personality to kind of get out of the way, so the essence and the truth, like you say so many times, the truth of who I know myself to be, who I know life, or how I know life to be, emerges, and there is no right or wrong, right? Because we all are so uniquely, beautifully diverse and different, and we all have a pathway to that remembering. And I tell you, Sharonda Crome and Polarity, I recommend her, especially if she's here in Columbus. She might even do stuff, online or whatever. But it's such a different way of being upon the earth. And it's exciting for me to be in the observation of that potentiality to grow and to expand and to be more than what it was 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago. Okay, there's a question. Miss Sharonda, do you do any work online?
I do. It's amazing because you can feel me in the space with you, even doing it online. When COVID hit, that was the only way that I could work with people. And I worked with people doing, polarity therapy and with some coaching. And I'm like, do you feel me with you? And they're like, I do. And I was like, okay, I'm standing on your left side and my thumb is on your shoulder and your elbow. And, and it's magnetism, and they're designed to evoke, or I won't say evoke, to maybe it is evoke certain things within, or allow certain energies to run, or make space for certain energies to run. So short answer, yes. I do.
So we have about 6 minutes. So anything else rising for you? I do know I would like to put out into the field your new initiative through like the impact safety, the embodied Self-defense is the we are worth defending. Can you
Yes.
share a little bit about that?
Yes. So Julie Harmon is the director of Impact Safety here in Columbus, Ohio. And for years, Julie wanted to put together, a program that helped support women of color, people of color, in the self-defense space. So Julie did some research, and the research found that it delved into the reasons why people of color, Black women, were hesitant to attend those kinds of programs. And what she found was there was a call for instructors of color who could relate to the experience that people of color go through, especially in terms of violence reduction, right? Or survival of trauma, or just how to be safer in your bodies and in your environments. So after being with Impact for a while and on the instructor training track with Impact, the opportunity came available to train instructors here in Columbus, Ohio, for how to conduct We Are Worth Defending empowerment self-defense workshops. And so that is an offering that is available. So if you know someone who is interested in interacting with the We Are Worth Defending initiative, because it is a movement, not a moment. And we cover, microaggressions and the basics of how to be safer within yourself by connecting to your intuition and your awareness, to employing tactics to preserve your boundaries if you need to. And then there's Impact Safety, of course, that is full contact self-defense, open to any and everybody. That is a life-changing, they're all life-changing in some form or fashion, in my opinion, but I do appreciate the full contact self-defense model, and impactsafety.org in Columbus, Ohio, for anyone who's interested in that, and we do travel. And then, of course, Polarity for living liberation through unifying solutions, and Suzanne Roberts as the principal of that, teaching, in a more concentrated way, the practices of what we talked about today.
Yeah. I want to reiterate how joyful and how appreciative I am that you joined me today. I can't believe an hour has already gone by. I could keep talking to you for ever. And what I would like to share is when we first reconnected and we're like, okay, what are we going to talk about type of thing. I wrote down a quote that you said. I don't know if you know I did this, but I wrote down a quote and I'm like, wow, that I so resonate, and I have it up. So it's about inspiration that I'd like to share with the world. When we are when we are rested from within, our aliveness is vibrant. Knowing myself apart from social constructs and personal trauma provides a pathway to my inner radiance, thriving, and liberation. We inherently deserve to know this. It is our birthright.
Oh.
So there's probably 30 seconds left, and I want the world to be in that space with us, because it is our birthright.
It is our birthright.
Thank you, Sharonda. And I hope to have you back on.
Laurie,
Absolutely.
it's Tantra. Read it again.
When we are rested from within, our aliveness is vibrant. Knowing myself apart from social constructs and personal trauma provides a pathway to my inner radiance, thriving, and liberation. We inherently deserve to know this. It is our birthright.
Bless you both.